Hi guys, and welcome to Forge Right. Also, welcome to part 2 of my coal forge build. This segment will be based around the construction of my clinker breaker. I gather most people have seen the plans that I put up in my earlier video when I first introduced the fact that I was going to be building this coal forge. So I won't go deeply into what I'm going to do. You'll see that on the video. So I won't muck around talking to you here. I shall just get straight into the construction. I'm a little bit disappointed in some of the quality of my videos. I keep losing audio and segments of video, so I apologize for that if the video appears to be a little bit out of sequence in places and the audio is not that great. I have trouble with Bluetooth at times, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth having conflicts with each other, so technical issues that one day I suppose I shall get my head around, but in the meantime I hope you can put up with it. So let's get into it and build this clinker breaker. Okay, see you later. Okay, well, this is a view of the top section of my clinker breaker. This section here has the grate in the top. I've put this holes in the top here, 1, 2, 3, 4 holes, and I've made another plate, which is this one over here, which has the same 4 holes. It's pretty much a mirror image of the first plate. Now I'm going to cut all the way down the edge of these lines here, 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth, all the way down every one of those lines, which effectively will give me these sections here cut out. I've punched 8 holes, 4 along the top here and 4 along the bottom here, to start where I can then drill holes through those and strip out all this material here that you can see with the X's on it. That will give me the top section of the box, which will marry up with the other section of the box which I showed you earlier, and there'll be some sides and some ends and whatnot. There'll be 4 what I call fingers on the clinker breaker itself, which will have a bar running through that section there. So I'll just take it over to the drill and put these holes in it. Nobody wants to watch anybody drill holes, so I'll leave the recording there and get back to you once that job is done. Okay, bye for now. Okay, well, successfully drilled the 8 holes. They make the ends of my clinker breaker slots. So now the plan is to get a straight edge along there, get my handy cutting disc, run a straight edge along there, cut a mark on every one of those edges just to score it properly so I'm nice and straight, and then I can proceed to cut through them all to make the channels that run down there. Okay, there we go, all cut through with the grinding wheel. 10mm plate, so that took 2.5 discs. Bit of grinding, but it's worth it to get a good grate. So the idea is, as I described, I've got 4 fingers on my clinker breaker, which will rotate through and break that up. So that goes there, and I will be welding this 100mm by 100mm piece to the top of there. Don't know if you can see what's going on in the picture there, but that'll be welded to there and then welded to the bottom of the fire pot, which will give me a bit of room in the back here. I'm going to drop some bolts through these. Obviously I'm going to cut it off here. It's only sitting on here, so it's easy to maneuver and handle and hold, but I will be cutting the whole thing off there. So it's the nice strip that comes through and has the grate sitting nicely over a collar, so to speak, for want of a better word for it, that is attached to the bottom of the fire pot. Okay, a bit of a catch up on the construction of the Clinker breaker box. I showed the grate with the slots in it for my Clinker breaker fingers to stick through. I've now made the second plate, which is pretty much a carbon copy of that one, but without the grate. It's just got, excuse me, it's just got a hole through it. And I've made these 4 sections here which make up the box. So that one will go there. Magnets, can't trust them. So that one will go about there. This is just rough, obviously. So they go close enough to those holes to clear it, but to give me a fairly good square box construction. I think that's clear enough to see. Okay, so they go there. These will be welded, not welded. I shouldn't say welded because they're not going to be welded. These will be there. Okay, so that now shows the box construction. Now what I want to do is make sure these are straight and that they clear these clear the bolts nice and easily. Alright, I believe that clears everything. Can't see very well from there, I don't think. Not enough light behind it for you to be able to see, but I can see that it clears it by about 5 mil, which gives me my box construction. These pieces will be welded on the underneath edge here, so they are part of this construction. These pieces will be welded to the top, so they are part of this construction. This will have my clinker breaker, a hole drilled through there, same on the other side, and that whole unit will sit on there like that. So these sides will come up around the top unit. Okay, I've got this piece here now welded along these edges here. So you can see those welded there. Same along here. Along the inside edge, I think you can see, and the inside edge. So they're all welded up now. I think that shows it reasonably well. I'm going to be putting those on the side there. They will have the holes for my clinker breaker bar to go through in those. I want to position those before I go welding them to the base plate. And here I have a pattern cut out for my clinker breaker itself. So the dark pieces are the pieces that I'm going to be removing, which will leave me with a straight bar and 4 fingers. If I haven't stuffed it up, those 4 fingers will align with my 4 grooves, like so. I think that can be seen. Sorry if it can't. Once I've done that, I'll take my threaded bar. That's not it, clearly, it's just a piece of demonstration material. So I'll take my threaded bar and weld it to either end. First of all, in making this, I'm going to be punching a hole in the end of here, each one of those, and removing this material. So I'll punch a hole in the center of the ends of those, 6mm in from the end there, which will give me holes here. Then I'll cut down those edges to cut out the remainder. Okay, I've got this thing cut out now. So drilled the 6 holes, cut out in between them, ground off the edges to make sure that they're going to go through. So that now sits in there and will rotate within there. So next task is to connect the bar to the middle of those. And of course that will be set inside there so that it comes up like that. Somewhere in there, comes up through there and rotates back down. I'll probably put that aside, get my steel plate out, put it on there, lay a bar there, lay a bar there, get it nice and square, and tack weld it up fully, see if it works. Okay, well, I've now got the box constructed. It's slightly different to what my original design was. I had the original design much like it is now, but with this welded along this bottom edge. So we've already got this side piece here welded to the top. So the top grate and the side pieces are one unit, and I was going to weld these 2 side pieces to the bottom piece, and then the 2 pieces would marry together like so. They're still doing that, but I've decided not to weld that together, and I've taken to putting a bolt through each side, which means in the future, if required, if for some reason there's an issue, I can pull these bolts out, undo these locking nuts that you see on the end of here, and they can come off. The sides will then pull out, and I can do work on the teeth of my clinker breaker. I can replace it, or weld on another tooth if one breaks off, or reduce the size of them if I find that they get clogged, or do any other maintenance that I need to do to it in the future. Just undo those 2 bolts, take those bolts off, the sides come off, and the bar is removable and repairable or adaptable. So that's how she's turned out. These clear this grate very well. I've welded these 4 bolts here on permanently, so they will always line up with those holes. If I do pull it apart, I'm not trying to jiggle, trying to get the bolts to line up. These holes will line up with those bolts. So that will be the back. So now that happily rotates with just a bit of a spin. There's a little bit of play in there, but really only enough to give it free movement. If I wanted to tighten it up a little bit more, I can always unlock this nut, screw that in another quarter of a turn, whatever need be, and then tighten this nut back up, and that would take that little bit of slop out of it. But I like the way that it rotates easily like that. So I think that's a pretty good design and works very well. So I think that should pick up and crush or drop through any material, any clinkers that get clogged up in here. They should be mashed up by them fairly well. While I'm thinking about it, I shall show how it sits on there. That will sit like that and rotate in there. So I think that does a pretty good job myself. This I'm likely to adapt. I think I'm going to cut down in here and across here and across there. I don't think I'm going to go on a slope. I think I'll just go square. Probably maybe 100 mil, just to give myself room to get material in the fire lower. Righto, another update. I've now attached the collar to the top. As you can see, it's welded along this edge, that edge and that edge. Obviously I don't want to weld it along these sides because this is where these ends come off to allow me to access and maintain the clinker breaker itself within the box. I initially had this piece of square tubing, which is what I'm going to build my air pipes out of. I'd cut this to put in there, but as you can see from the close-up picture, it's only probably, what are we looking at, 3 mil thick, and I thought no, it's too thin, so I discarded that. To be at the edge of the fire pot here, where the fire pot comes down, I wanted something thicker, so I grabbed some of this 6 mil steel bar, cut it into these lengths, welded it up, and then welded it on top. So she's welded on the corners and then welded along these two edges here. So my fire pot will be welded to the top of there, and that's a permanent fixture. This plate is a permanent fixture to the fire pot. So just thought I'd update the viewers with where we're at with that. Okay, well there you have it. Part 2 of the coal forge build, which was the clinker breaker construction. I'm very happy with the way it turned out. I'm hoping it'll work really well. That segment will be attached directly to the bottom of the fire pot, which I videoed in part 1. I will be starting part 3 of this series very soon, which is the air intake and ash dump, and also the little inspection port, which I shall be adding to the bottom of it just to catch that material, bits of clinker that fall down in towards my blower pipe. So thanks very much for watching part 2. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next video. Okay, bye for now.